You're listening to the School Leadership Reimagined podcast, episode 179. How do builders like us make a dramatic difference in the lives of our students in spite of all the obstacles we face? How do you keep your vision for your school from being held hostage by resistant teachers, uncooperative parents, ridiculous district policies, or lack of time, money, or resources? If you're facing those challenges right now, here's where you'll find the answers, strategies, and actionable tips you need to overcome any obstacle you face. You don't have to wait to make a difference in the lives of the people you serve. You can turn your school into a success story right now with the people and resources you already have. Let's get started. Hey builders, welcome to another episode of the School Leadership Reimagined podcast. I'm your host, Robyn Jackson, and today I want to ask you a really important question. Could your school or district survive without you? The reason I want to ask that question is because I spend a lot of time in forums for school principals and leaders, and there seems to be this ethos that happens a lot in leadership where people feel like they have to be the hero of their school. I'm going to go into this school and I'm going to transform this school. I'm going to go into this school and I'm going to save this school from failure. And a lot of it has to do with, I think, the teacher movies we watched when we were younger. I remember thinking, when I became an administrator, I had to be Joe Clark. I had to, walk around in a bullhorn. I mean, I didn't have a literal bullhorn, unlike some people I know who did go buy a bullhorn, but I had that mentality that I had to come in and save the school. And so there's a mentality that we have in this profession that whether you're a teacher or whether you are an administrator or whether you're a superintendent, that we have to come in and rescue a school, that our job is to be in charge of everything, to take over, to take ownership over everything. The buck stops with me. And the challenge with that is that if you do that, if you build a school around who you are, what happens when you leave? Can your school still survive? Can your school survive without you? Now, before we jump into that, I have something really exciting to tell you about. Remember last time I teased that we had something really cool happening, and it's going on right now. And can I tell you just how incredible it's been? Those of you who are in the 100% Vision Challenge with us, then you are seeing the results. You're seeing that people are starting to have these breakthroughs already, and we're only halfway through the challenge. And so if you have not joined the challenge yet, we still have one more day of the challenge where we're going to have the trainings live. And then we're going to give you the weekend to get caught up. So if you are late to the party and you still want to join, you can just go to buildershipuniversity.com/challenge, buildershipuniversity.com/challenge, and you can still get signed up. Now you have to hurry because after next week, we are taking down everything, all the training videos, all the homework, all the bonus training videos. We're taking all of that down. And so you'll miss out on the challenge, but you still have time right now. Let me tell you about some of the things that are happening inside this group. First of all, people who have been really discouraged in their schools are getting re-energized because the work is so exciting now that they have their 100% vision. People who have kind of stifled their vision because they didn't feel like they were allowed to be the ones who are making their vision, they're now speaking up and speaking out and getting in touch with work they really want to be doing. So the motivation, the excitement, the energy inside of this group is just incredible. And you can still be a part of it. Just go to buildershipuniversity.com/challenge. Now, in addition to the challenge, the doors are opening at the end of the week for our next cohort for Buildership University. And so after going through the challenge, you've got your vision, and now you want to know how to make that vision a reality, then you can still join Buildership University in this next cohort. Now, we're getting towards the end of the year, so I'm not sure how many more cohorts are going to open up this year. So this is one of your last opportunities this year to join the cohort. And let me tell you why you should. When you are inside a Buildership University, you don't have to figure it out on your own anymore. You've been listening to this podcast and you're listening because the ideas around buildership speak to you. You're intrigued by them. You like this idea of being a builder, and maybe you even have my book and you are reading Stop Leading, Start Building, and you're saying, you know what, this is something I really want to do. And then you're trying to figure it out for yourself. Buildership University takes that away from you. You don't have to worry about any of that. Instead, you just go through the process, and the process is mapped out step by step. So once you join Buildership University, you can relax because you don't just worry about things anymore. You don't have to figure things out. You get all the support you need. We have taken this whole process of creating the kind of school where 100% of your students can be successful, and we've broken it down into baby steps, one by one by one, so that every single week you are moving closer and closer to that 100% vision, but without the pressure and stress of having to figure it out on your own. You can just relax into the process. And as long as you are going through the process, and you can do it at your own pace, but as long as you're staying involved and engaged in that process, you will make progress. You will start experiencing wins along the way. You will start seeing a change in your school. You will start feeling like a weight is being lifted off your shoulders because you're not carrying all of this by yourself anymore. So if you want to be a part of the next cohort, doors open this Sunday. And so you can just go to buildershipuniversity.com, click on the link to join the cohort. If your doors are not open yet, like if you do it before Sunday, you'll be put on the wait list. As soon as doors are open, you'll get an email to let you know the doors are open, and you can go ahead and join this cohort so that you can get started right now, putting those things in place. One final reminder, Builders Lab. We still have tickets available. Some people are not quite ready for the commitment that Buildership University will take, but you still need some sort of shot in the arm, some sort of like energy boost so that you can get through the rest of the year. And if that's you, then you need to come to Builders Lab, because for 3 days, it's high energy. You walk out of Builders Lab re-energized, motivated. And what we do in Builders Lab that's different than in Buildership University is Builders Lab is really focused on micro-slicing. At Builders Lab, we help you if you're feeling like you're just overwhelmed by a whole bunch of problems and you're not sure which one that you need to tackle first, and you don't feel like you have any energy or any time to do the work of Buildership University. When you come to Builders Lab, we're going to help you weed through all of those problems and find the one that's the most important to solve right now. So rather than trying to do all the things, you're going to just focus on the one thing that will make the biggest difference for the rest of this school year. And then we're going to help you figure out how to solve it in 90 days. Not mitigate it, not make it a little less painful. Solve it, remove it, eliminate it once and for all. So if you are ready to kind of start doing the systematic work of becoming a builder, Buildership University is for you. Once you join, you can relax because we help you throughout it all. You get it's called a mentorship, not a group program, because we mentor you through the entire process and make sure you have everything you need to be successful. If you're not ready for that because you've got a lot of stuff going on and you just really need to get to the root of things and just feel like you can just get your head above water, then come to Builders Lab, because over the course of that 3 days, that's what we're going to help you do. When you leave, you're going to feel such a sense of not just excitement, but of relief, because you'll know what you need to do between now and the end of the school year to make this school year successful. You'll know the things you need to work on. You'll know the things you need to ignore. You'll have a system for how you can systematically eliminate the biggest pain in your rear end so that you can have a successful school year. And if you want to come to Builders Lab, then you need to go to mindstepsync.com/builders-lab. That's mindstepsync.com/builders-lab. Okay. So let's talk about this question. And this is a question that, a lot of people struggle with, right? Because on one hand, we want to believe that we're making a difference. But on the other hand, if we unwrap everything in our school around us, if everything in our school revolves around us, what happens if you leave? Can your school survive without you? And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, the answer is no, which is why schools are ricocheting back and forth between success and failure over and over again, because they get a really great principal. The principal builds a whole system around him or herself. And then that principal gets promoted or moved to another school. And then the school is left reeling. And the next principal walks in and tries to kind of pull things back together. And so it becomes this cult of personality rather than a strong school. I remember I worked with a principal once, and she had been the principal of that school for, I don't know, like 19 years. No one in that school had been hired by anyone else but her. She'd hired all of her staff. That's how long she'd been there. And they were like a family. They were close-knit. But the problem was, because they were like a family, they had dysfunctions like a family. And they fought like family, and they had long-standing grudges like family, and they let things go that they shouldn't have let go like family. And so the culture on the surface looked like a very close-knit culture, but the culture was a very dysfunctional culture because the culture was about the personalities and it wasn't about serving kids. I've been in other schools where they have these charismatic leaders who come in and clean house and transform the school. And then because of the good job that they've done, that charismatic leader gets promoted. And the next principal comes in and everybody automatically resents the next principal because the next principal isn't the charismatic leader that left. So the next principal has a harder row to hoe. And because the charismatic leader was holding the school together, when they leave, the school begins to slowly but surely fall apart. And while it feels really good to get your school exactly like you want it, to make it work for you, are you being selfish by doing that? Because if it works for you, what happens when you leave? One of the reasons why I think it's really important to develop 100% vision that is about the kids and not about you is because when you start pursuing that 100% vision, what you're doing is pursuing something bigger than you. One of the things I tell builders all the time is that you need to be stubborn on the vision, flexible in the details, because it's not just you building your school, it's everybody. And so while you are responsible for setting the vision for where we're going, what does 100% success look like for our kids? It's everybody's responsibility to make that vision happen. It's everybody's responsibility to move the school forward in a way that actually helps you achieve and realize that vision. And if you do it right, people keep moving towards the vision even after you're gone. People still work the systems that you've put in place even after you're gone. Your school is strong. And I would argue even that the strength of your school is not how good it is when you're there, but how good it remains when you leave. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are building cults of personality, but they're not building schools that can last. Schools that sustain, schools that are agnostic as to who's in charge because you've put systems in place that make the school work no matter what. People get mad at me when I do this, when I'm talking about this in live workshops, because I say all the time that, your school should be like Chick-fil-A. And I've even talked about this in the podcast. And so forgive me if I offend you, but hear me out. Here's what I mean. So when you go to a Chick-fil-A, I don't care what Chick-fil-A you go to, when you go, you get great service, right? I say to my husband all the time that if we had put the COVID vaccine distribution in the hands of Chick-fil-A, we would have eliminated COVID a long time ago. Everybody who wanted a vaccine could have had a vaccine. It would have been all over because they're just that efficient. And so you go in a Chick-fil-A drive-thru and you see the long line. You're like, oh my goodness. Instead, you're like, well, they've got me. And people get in the long line because they know they're going to be taken care of. When you place your order, I don't care who you're giving that order to. I don't care what state you're in. I don't care what county or city you're in. They're going to say, my pleasure, after they take your order. Your order is going to be right. And The reason that Chick-fil-A can do that is not because each individual Chick-fil-A has such a stellar manager. They don't. The reason they can do that is because the systems in Chick-fil-A are so tight that it really doesn't matter who's in that drive-through window or who's behind that counter. You're going to get excellent service because they've designed the systems to be able to do that. Well, think about your school. If your school only works because you have this teacher or that teacher or because you're there, then what have you really done? You've done nothing. You've built nothing because it will fall apart as soon as that teacher leaves, as soon as you leave, as soon as this group of teachers leaves, it falls apart. You know what really makes a school impervious to crisis? If you build a school that no matter who is in that classroom, you know you're guaranteed kids are going to still perform and do well. No matter who is in the main office, you're guaranteed that the school is going to continue to operate smoothly and move forward. I talk to a lot of superintendents and they're always looking for that superstar principal, that stellar principal. And great, if you can find that person, great. But let me tell you the truth, that person they're not going to stay because if they're really a superstar, then they're going to be called into some other position sooner or later. But the second thing is, if your whole plan for moving your district forward relies on superstar principals, you're in trouble. And the same thing is true for principals. If your whole plan for what's going to move your school forward relies on having stellar teachers, you're in trouble. Here's one that you can count on, though. If your school plan is relying on the fact that no matter what teacher's in the classroom, you can guarantee that the kids are still going to learn. Why? Because you are a builder and you know how to build great teachers, even if they don't start that way, then it almost doesn't matter who comes to your school, because whoever comes to your school, you're going to help that teacher become a master teacher, and you're going to help that teacher make sure that every child in that classroom is successful. Now you've done something, right? We get so caught up in it has to be about us. No, it doesn't. In fact, if your school is all about you, you've trapped yourself. Because if your school is all about you, nobody can make a decision unless they come through you first. You know how exhausting that is? If your school is all about you, you can't ever leave because you know that as soon as you leave, it all falls apart. But if you can build a school that's about something bigger, your vision, your mission, your core values, if you can put systems in place in your school so that no matter who is in the classroom or who is in the main office, kids are still being served and you're moving closer and closer towards your vision. If you could put systems in place in your school that work even when you're not there, all of a sudden you're free to do the things that very few principals ever have the opportunity to do. You're free to think strategically. You're free to think about the kids that normally get overlooked. You're free to actually get in classrooms and work with teachers and help your teachers grow. You're free to think about new programs and innovative things that you could be doing in your school that separate your school from every other school out there. You're free to start thinking about and thinking about your own professional development and figuring out how you're going to grow and reading and learning new ideas and bringing those new ideas back to your school. You free yourself up when your school can run without you to be a better principal. So, what's it going to be? Are you going to be a leader? And as a leader, you're going to build a cult of personality around you. You're going to be a leader who swoops in and rescues a school and traps yourself in the process. Are you going to be a leader who is so necessary that everything falls apart if you're not there? Or are you going to be a builder? Are you going to build a school where everybody feels empowered? You know, the problem with you being the superhero is that your staff feels less and less empowered. But when you're a builder and you're building a school that can survive without you, your staff feels empowered. Your staff feels energized. Your staff feels like they own a part of the process because they do. And so they're free to get creative. They're free to bring new ideas to the table because while you're stubborn on the vision, you're flexible in the details. And so you help people step up. I see a lot of times where people do these things where they're always talking about, we got to find roles for teacher leaders and we got to make more teacher leadership opportunities in schools. In a lot of cases, those teacher leadership opportunities are really artificial constructs that represent more work for teachers rather than true opportunities to take more ownership and to be more in charge and to do more things that move the school forward. When you're a builder, you don't have to worry about that because every teacher is going to be stepping into a bigger role because every teacher has a part to play in achieving your vision. So your vision doesn't just exist in the main office. Your vision exists school-wide. And then what happens is the more empowered your teachers become, the more they feel free to empower your students. So now it's not just your teachers owning your vision. It's not just you owning your vision. Your students and their families own the vision too. And everybody is working towards that. And so when you put systems in place, it's not like pulling teeth and dragging people to your goal or forcing people into a system. They're embracing that system because they feel empowered to be a part of something bigger. You're moving your vision forward. And then the more that they begin to embrace, the more they begin to step up. And then the less you have to do because instead of dragging everybody to the goal on your back, you now have everybody moving to that goal. You've invited people to join you. They start working with you and the work feels good because it's not just you. And most importantly, when you leave your school, it's a better place. It's better than you found it. I'll tell you this. This was hard for my ego, so I just have to admit this. And I was just saying this to one of our builders the other day. I was talking about this to Scott, and it's hard. It's still hard for me to admit, but here's the reality. I remember that when I left my last administrative role, and I started Mind Steps, I went back to the school probably about 5 years later. And since then, they had two principals since I'd left. They were on, I think, their third principal since I'd left. And I, first of all, was gratified to see some of the things that we had put in place when I was there still working, still operating. But it bruised my ego a little bit because nobody remembered that I was a part of putting those things in place. It was just the way we did things. In fact, people couldn't remember when we didn't do things this way. It was just the way we do things here now. And then it happened to me again. I'd worked with a school district as a consultant, and I'd been working with a group of schools that were failing in the district over the course of 3 years to get them out of improvement and to get them moving forward. And we'd put some of these same things that I talk to you about every single week in place, this buildership model, although we didn't call it that then. We didn't know that it wasn't a whole model. There were pieces of it, and we were putting those pieces in place. And I was invited back to the district for something, and I can't remember what. And while I was there, the one of the people I'd worked with in the district, I was talking to that person, and the new superintendent came up. And so she introduced me to the new superintendent, and she was telling the new superintendent about what I did. And she said, the new superintendent looked me over, as superintendents often do at consultants, they're like, oh, okay, you just want a job. And so she was trying to tell me why they didn't need me in the district. And she says, well, we're doing really well in a district because at one of our high schools, we're doing X, Y, and Z. And I was like, yeah, I did that. I showed them how to do that. Oh, well, one of our middle schools, we're doing A, B, and C. And I'm like, yeah, that was another one of the schools I was working with. We put that in place. And what happened was, even though we had been working with that district for 3 years, the things that they were putting in place were so embedded in the culture at this point that they no longer remembered. It wasn't like the Mind Steps way or the buildership way. It was just their way. And I'll tell you, my ego took a beating for a long time until I thought about it. What better legacy could I leave than to help show people how to do something so well that they own it? It belongs to them. And it's so embedded in their culture that they don't even remember that I was the one that showed them how to do it. What better legacy could I leave? Because that's going to last longer than I do. Same thing is true for you. One of the things that makes your 100% vision so powerful is that by stating that aloud, you have begun a legacy journey. And while it may feel good to get the accolades, oh, you've rescued this school, oh, you bought this program in, oh, look at how you turned things around, those things don't last. And in a few years, you're forgotten along with all the reforms that you brought into the school, because as soon as the next person comes into the school, they're going to bring their own set of reforms and yours are gone. And the more attached they are to your name, the more likely they are to be discarded, right? Because there's a new sheriff in town. We have a new way of doing things. But when you build, when you put the things in place that you learn in Buildership University how to put in place, the systems that you put in place, the buildership systems, when you build a new culture where everybody owns the vision and everybody has a piece to play in that vision, when you start putting systems in place that move you systematically towards your vision, when you start creating a culture where 100% of your students are successful and you won't settle for anything less, it becomes bigger than you. It becomes true transformation. And when you leave, you know that you've left your school better than when you came. And even if they don't remember your name, the true legacy is the school still does the things that you taught it how to do. The systems that you put in place still work. And more importantly, the kids are still thriving. Not just some of the kids, but all of the kids. So you have to decide, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a hero in a cape that soon gets forgotten? Or do you want to be a legacy builder who leaves places better because you were a part of it, even if they don't remember your name? My hope today is that you'll choose something bigger. My hope today is that you'll choose to be a legacy builder, that you'll choose to leave a legacy, that you'll choose to build a school that can survive without you. Because that's how you not only impact kids today, that's how you impact kids in perpetuity. Because you decided to, instead of building a cult of personality, you decided to build a true legacy like a builder. I'll talk to you next time. Hey, if you're ready to get started being a builder right away, then I want to invite you to join us at Buildership University. It's our exclusive online community for builders just like you, where you'll be able to get the exact training that you need to turn your school into a success story right now with the people and resources you already have. Inside, you'll find our best online courses, live trainings with me, tons of resources, templates, and exemplars, and monthly live office hours with me, where you can ask me anything and get my help on whatever challenge you're facing right now. If you're tired of hitting obstacle after obstacle and you're sick of tiny little incremental gains each year, if you're ready to make a dramatic difference in your school right now, then you need to join Buildership University. Just go to buildershipuniversity.com and get started writing your school success story today.